So welcome everyone to our Thursday Namaste gathering. As always, it's so wonderful to have all of you here. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit more, as we did yesterday, about one of my favorite saints, Mary Magdalene. Yesterday, as you know, was the feast of Mary Magdalene. And so we're going to let her teach us what it means to desire only one thing. To, on one hand, give our entire heart to love, and on the other hand, to not cling in an egoic, needy way to that which we think we desire. That was one of the great lessons that Mary Magdalene taught us at one of the greatest scenes from the Bible, at the resurrection, when Mary Magdalene was the very first person to see the risen Christ. And she wanted to go to him. She wanted to cling to him. She wanted to wrap her arms around him because she knew and she felt and she believed that he would return. And there he is. Regardless of what you want to think about their relationship, no one really knows, but we know that she loved him completely. And yet, what does he say to her? Don't cling to me. But he was calling her not to step away, but to step toward, closer, in a more intimate, essential way, which is what we are all being called to do. We're all being called to let go of our need to claim or to cling, and to welcome all that is, to open our hearts so completely and to love the divine and the beloved so well that it becomes the only thing that we know, the only thing that we desire. So the reason I was thinking to share this morning was because I was reading the daily lesson that comes from Richard Rohr. And I know some of you get Richard's emails, and maybe you've already read this, but I thought it might be nice to take a look at this beautiful lesson regarding Mary Magdalene, but more than anything, the importance, something we talk a lot about here, that overwhelming desire of love for love, the desire and the longing for only one thing. You can call that God, the beloved, whatever you want to call it. The words don't matter, because once again, we're not going to cling to the words either. We're not going to cling to any of the concepts. We're going to let the love itself lift us above all concepts so that we can feel and enjoy and know only that love. I talk a lot about that bhakti yoga, that sense of desire and longing for God, for the beloved. And for me, that's the only thing that lifts me above this world. And maybe it's that specific thing for you, or maybe there's going to be a slightly different turn, a different angle. But I promise you, it will be that longing for love itself, the longing of love for love, which is what Mary Magdalene expresses here. So let me read this lesson from Richard Rohr, and then we'll share a little bit more about it. So he says, one of the lessons we might learn from the gospel stories of Mary Magdalene is that in the great economy of grace, all is used and transformed. Nothing is wasted. God uses our egoic desires and identities to lead us beyond them. I love that. I'm sure we all do. The fact that God will even use our egoic desires and identities to lead us beyond them all. I'm sure we could all come up with many ways and many examples in our lives of our own egoic needs and desires and longings and all the different ways that we limit things. And yet God uses all of them as well, but ultimately to lead us into that deep relationship, the longing of love for love itself. Jesus' clear message to his beloved Mary Magdalene in their first post-resurrection encounter is not that she squelch or deny or destroy her human love for him. He's much more subtle than that. He just says to her, do not cling to me. He's saying, don't hold on to the past, what you think you need or deserve. We are all heading for something much bigger and much better, Mary. This is the spiritual art of detachment. I like that. The spiritual art of detachment, which is not taught much in the capitalistic worldview we're clinging to and possessing, and not just the norm, but even the goal. In her desire to cling to Jesus and his refusal to allow it, we see ourselves reflected as in a mirror. We're shown that eventually even the greatest things in our lives, even our loves, must be released. We can't hold on to them too tight. They must be allowed to become something new. They can only become something new if we hold them like this. But what we tend to do in our egoic view and desires is we say, no, I need this. I must have this in this way. And the story of Mary Magdalene is that Jesus said, no, hold me like this. Don't try and hold me to a limited self-identity based upon a past reference that we share. That's not going to get us anywhere. The only thing that's going to get us to where we want to go is if we allow love to lift us. And love can only lift us if we don't cling, if we don't hold on to those past identifications. Okay, let me back up. We are shown that eventually even the greatest things in our lives, even our loves, must be released and allowed to become something new. Otherwise, we are trapped. Love has not yet made us free. Great love is both very attached or passionate. I love this. Great love is always passionate and yet very detached at the same time. It's attached and detached all at the same time. It's a bit of a mystery. It is love, but not addiction. The soul, the true self or the whole self, has everything. Your soul has everything, and so it does not require any particular thing or person. It's very important. Your soul contains and embraces everything, so it does not need one particular person or identity or anything. When we have all things, especially within our Christ consciousness, we do not have to protect any one thing. When we have all things, we don't need to protect any one thing. The true self can love and let go. I love that. It can both love passionately and let go equally passionately. The separate small self cannot do this. And so Jesus was saying to Mary Magdalene, don't cling to your small self. Open and awaken that larger identity, the truth within you, your whole self, so that you can love me passionately, but hold me and love me like this, so we can both be lifted. I am told that the do not cling to me encounter between Jesus and Mary Magdalene is the most painted Easter scene in the world. The artistic imagination knows that a seeming contradiction was playing out. Intense love and yet appropriate distance. That's interesting. It's interesting in a time of social distancing to have both intense love and yet appropriate distance. The soul and the spirit tend to love and revel in paradoxes. They operate by resonance, to resonate, to vibrate, and reflection. Our smaller egoic selves want to resolve all paradoxes in a most glib way, a shallow way. Doesn't that feel right to you? Doesn't the ego always want to resolve things, but always in a shallow way that it can understand? Only because the ego cannot understand very much at all. It was made not to understand. The ego or your self-identity, the way that you self-identify yourself as being separate from everything else, was made not to understand. So of course it's going to be glib. We only have to look around at all the struggling relationships in our own lives to see that this is true. When we love exclusively from our small selves, we operate in a way that is mechanical and instrumental, which we now sometimes call codependent. We return again and again to the patterns of interaction we know. This is not always bad, but it is surely limited. Great love, the love that Mary Magdalene and Jesus shared, loving from our whole selves, connected to the source of all love, offers us so much more than that, an infinite amount more than that. It can't even be described. It can't even be thought about or understood. The love that comes when we open and allow and yet passionately engage with one another is another planet altogether. So, one final little bit here. The ego would like Mary Magdalene and Jesus to be caught up in a passionate love affair. How many of us have thought that? Oh, wouldn't it be like a movie if Jesus comes out of the tomb and there's his wife and she runs into his arms? No, that's just part of that limited egoic desire to cling, to hold on to a past reference. Even if they were married, I don't know if they were or weren't, but even if they were, that only makes sense from an egoic level. Jesus is calling her to something greater and calling all of us to something greater. So once again, the ego would like Mary Magdalene and Jesus to be caught up in a passionate love affair. Of course they are, in the deepest sense of the term. But only the true self knows how to enjoy and picture a love of already satisfied desires. A love of already satisfied desire. The true self and the separate self see differently, completely differently. Both are necessary, but one is bigger and better and even eternal. So, what does this mean to us? It means that we are being called to love as Mary Magdalene was. We are called to be Mary Magdalene in our relationship with everything, especially the Christ. And we see the Christ everywhere, in everyone. So we're not being called to cling. If there's someone that I love passionately and I feel that need and that desire to claim them, I know that this is my ego wanting to separate, wanting to limit. Just as Mary Magdalene wanted to separate from everyone else so she could have this special relationship with the risen Jesus. Now we're being called to share that with everyone, to see the Christ in everyone, to not cling to any of it, but to hold it with our open hands passionately, to love with great passion, but a passion that lifts us above this world, not holds us and limits us and chains us. So it's a beautiful lesson, and I thought maybe one more day we could look at this beautiful story of Mary Magdalene and see how it relates to our desire to love completely. So I'm going to now pass it over to Vicky. Are you here today, Vicky? I haven't had a chance to look yet.
I'm right here, Jimmy.
What do you want to share about Mary Magdalene?
I love this because, it's that agape love. It's that Christ love. And all that really means, and I think we're all seeing it, is being here in total freedom. And freedom is without any attachment to what it looks like, to all the forms. And when we come finally, wherever we are within ourselves, to letting go of everything, and I'm seeing it because I'm letting go of a house and family and all kinds of things, what happens is the natural love that's been underneath it, that has been really what was valuable, starts rising to the surface, and that's what is celebrated, and you never lose it. So it's cause for great joy. And even in this Zoom room, we are closer to one, even you and I are closer to one another than we have been in 30 years, because not only do we share the same purpose, but we have been given a space to celebrate that shared purpose and include all these other brothers and sisters who are coming into natural freedom of whether by fire or by water, might as well do it by grace than resistance, letting go of everything as it arises, because you can't throw it away, because that's as much of an attachment as holding on to things. We just have to stay open and let things come and go and float in or out, and stay receptive to the love and the direction that's underneath this flow, because it's bringing us into greater love, greater realization. That agape love is Christ's love. It's what Mary Magdalene demonstrated. It's what we are demonstrating today. We love one another totally because we see each other's light and recognize it in everyone. It's not exclusive to any one brother, but seeing it anywhere brings it to life and makes it such a celebration just to see each other. Whether it's at the Namaste room where all the guys are gathered, it's so fun to see everyone, or just seeing your face to me as I do now, and all the brothers on Zoom. I might even go get a computer, I don't have one, just to see everyone's face, because I don't get that on a phone. But the joy of it is without opposite. It's without parallel. And that's all freedom is no attachment. Because and this is all it is, I don't care how God's grace shows up. All I know is it's going to be a lot more fun than anything I could ever think of. It's going to correct the past immediately and let the past serve the present. When you were saying our ego in the Holy Spirit's hands ends up being a blessing and not in harm to ourselves or anyone. The Holy Spirit uses all our weak spots to bless us and help us to move into more and more freedom. So we don't even have to be concerned with that. If we just stay open and be fluid about what comes and goes, and enjoy it all. There's a new way of abiding. And maybe that's what we're learning, because in this spot of freedom, where we're free, because we're not holding on to anything, and I'm daily watching the house go out piece by piece, and people come and go piece by piece. It's like, oh my gosh, the excitement under it, because I know I'm not orchestrating anything, and that I'm knowing the love that's orchestrating everything is God's love. And the only purpose is that shared purpose of extending that love and, enjoying it, abiding in it, and start seeing with it and feeling with it, so that we see and feel differently. We see and feel, tenderly, the leaves on the tree and the birds in the air. It's like maybe how Francis was able all the time to see everything. I don't know, but anyway, agape. And the other word that comes to mind is, in old Christianity teaching, they talk about the parousia. The parousia was the second coming of Christ. And many people did think it was a physical coming of that Jesus Christ embodiment. But we are the parousia. We are the coming of Christ consciousness into our minds, our hearts, our beings, right where we stand. And that is the glory in heaven, on earth as it is in heaven. That is that glory. And we're living it right now, just on this call. Look at how close we love one another and feel naturally to one another. Whether on this call or on the 2 o'clock family call we do, I feel closer to those guys and all of us here than people I've known for 70 years, because we share a purpose. And the purpose is to let everything go and trust God. Let everything go. This is the party. This is the parousia. This is the party of letting everything go and letting everything be given and restored in a true way, like Jesus standing outside of that tomb in what looked like to Mary a body that she could run and hold, but in a light body. We are already integrating into that. The more we look outside of ourselves for nothing but to give to one another, not to get anything, simply to give, to love one another and celebrate the purpose that we share. When the little daily stuff comes before us, to remember, okay, no matter what, keep our hands open and trust. And that freedom becomes freedom without opposite. And we become living centers of this parousia, of joy without opposite. Right here, right now. Thank you, Jimmy, and everybody. I love you all.
Boy, I love when the fire gets hot.
All the bells are ringing.
All the bells are ringing. That is so beautiful. Thank you, Vicky.
Thanks, Joey.
Amazing. I just love how we just piggyback onto each other. And I was just thinking how 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 great it is that some of you may really resonate more with the way I share, or Vicky, or Christina, or Alice, or anyone else that share, and it's going to hit you at just the right. And it may be different the next day. It may be someone else who hits you. But this is the beautiful thing of our joining, that this is not focused on an identity. It's not about me. It's about all of us. It's about each one of us stepping into that Christ light. And when we do, as you see with Vicky, as you see with all of us, it just erupts. It just flows from us like this river, and we can't stop it. You don't want to stop it, because when you feel that life force and that wisdom and energy spontaneously erupting from within us, is there anything greater than that? To share that? Not for me. Coming together as we are in the morning here, there's nothing greater than this. And I hope you feel that eruption within you, because the Richard Rohr sharing today talked about resonance. And when we begin to resonate together, I can feel Vicky's heat. I can feel the heat coming from her fire, her passion. And I begin to feel that same heat rising within me. And I can only hope that that's what's happening for all of you, whether it be that you hear it from me, Vicky, Christina, or any Baraka, or anyone else, to have even one sentence touch and move you so completely that you say, this is it. This is the only thing I want. But I'm not going to cling to it. I'm not going to try and demand or hold it. I'm not going to say, this is mine. I'm going to say, this is thine. This is for all of us. This is for you, for me, for each one of us. Anyway, I'm erupting here, so I'm gonna I'm gonna turn it over to Christina, and she always erupts in a much more quiet way. Vicky, you and I are great because we erupt in very big ways. She's much more contained and quiet, but just as powerful. So, Christina, would love to hear what you want to share today.
Thank you. Yes, the silence definitely calms the ripples upon the waters. In my experience, human love is not even anywhere in the same category as true love, God love. I have experienced human love, the ego love, as God's divine gift that leads us home, has the potential, is always offering us the doorway to real love. The attachments and the sensations, the highs and the lows of human love opens the heart in a vulnerable way, so that we become then inspired to seek beyond human love, because human love can never satisfy for more than a temporary period of time. Even the unconditional love that I have for my son, per se, is a beautiful love that extends beyond all condition. But it's not God love. It's not the true love that has no ripple in it at all. God love is already satisfied every moment of every second. Like, God love is fulfillment. And today in the sharing, it reminded me of a story, and there's this beautiful Zen story of this monk who is sharing with his master. And he comes to his master many times, asking if this desire is worthy of holding on to. And every step of the way, the monk says, have to let that desire go. Finally, the monk comes to his master and he says, I have freed myself of all desire, but there is only one desire left, and I must know if this one desire is worthy of keeping. And the monk looks at him and smiles, or the master looks at him and smiles, wondering what this one desire might be. He says, I have one desire left, and it is only the desire for God. May I keep this one desire? And the master looks at him. He looks up to the sky. He looks back at him. He smiles. He says, for now, you may keep that one desire, because God will take care of that one desire. And that is the way of my experience. The desire that God, source, consciousness, the soul that we are planted within me, that led me to the desireless place, the already fulfilled, content, need, want, nothing, real love. We are real love. And that real love, God's love, has nothing to do with human love at all. So we feed and nourish that one desire until it's no longer necessary. And as it's that desire itself that allows us and drives us to rest in God. And in my experience, resting in God is, there's only contentment. So there's no, even the activity that moves through me at this point is not human directed. It is directed by that which is within me. It happens without any effort of my own. And I became very aware of the difference. And as I became aware of the difference and I continued to surrender to allowing that essence to move me versus moving myself, it has provided everything that I have needed. It takes care of me in ways that my mind cannot even conceive of. And so give thanks for that one desire, because there's so many people on the planet right now who aren't experiencing that one desire. And that's what all of this upheaval and discomfort is creating in people. It's opening the hearts so that the awakening can happen. And as we rest and hold each other here, we also end up inevitably, collectively holding the entire planet. And what greater gift is there than that? We all came for this. So resting, allowing, God does the work. Our own soul does the work within us, but only when we get out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Beautiful. Resting and then erupting, and then erupting and then resting. It's like a beautiful cycle, isn't it? Erupt with love, with grace, with holiness, and then rest in God. Just to let ourselves hold still and be fully present with the love that has lifted above all battlefields, the love that is our very foundation. So thank you so much, Christina. Thank you, Vicky. Let's turn it over now and see if there's anyone else who would like to share anything first from the Zoom room. Anybody like to ask a question or add anything to that? Just go ahead and, yes, Baraka, go right ahead. I love your mountain background.
Thank you. I don't know where it is. It's someplace new, like New Zealand or the Alps or something like that. But yes, um, I was asking about this, what I'm doing right now, and what it should be. And what came to me was the a paragraph from the Course, if you would indulge me.
We're indulged.
I'm going to see if I can put the Kindle up here and not drop out of. Can you still hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, good. Everyone, of course, knows the very famous paragraph that starts, "Simply do this."
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Favorite.
and favorite, forget this world, forget this course, and come with wholly empty hands unto your God. But then there's a paragraph that follows that, and that's what I'd like to read. Is it not he who knows the way to you? You need not know the way to him. Your part is simply to allow all obstacles that you have interposed between the Son of God, Son and God the Father to be quietly removed forever. God will do his part in joyful and immediate response. Ask and receive, but do not make demands, nor point the road to God by which he should appear to you. The way to reach him is merely to let him be, for in that way is your reality acclaimed as well. And then there's that wonderful poem at the very end of that lesson. This is, by the way, lesson 189. Father, we do not know the way to you, but we have called and you will answer us. We will not interfere. Salvation's ways are not our own, for they belong to you, and it is unto you we look for them. Our hands are open to receive your gifts. We have no thoughts we think apart from you, and cherish no beliefs of what we are or who created us. Yours is the way that we would find and follow, and we ask but that your will, which is our own as well, be done in us and in the world, that it may come a part of heaven now. Amen.